My name is Ranim Shaheen, and this is my story. Today, on Discovering Palestinian Intellect, the special edition of Chatting with Slava the Jordanian, we are celebrating a groundbreaking achievement that illuminates the boundless potential of dreams and determination. We are honored to witness the incredible journey of one of the first Palestinian Americans selected on a path to space and possibly the moon and beyond. Her career currently consists of contributing to the development of the next generation spacesuits that will return humans to the lunar surface and open the door to future exploration. But her story begins thousands of miles away, rooted in the rich heritage of Palestine. Her family, like countless others, faced the heart-wrenching challenge of displacement, but carried with them an unshakable hope for a brighter future. They embarked on a courageous journey to Houston, Texas, instilled in her a resilient spirit and a passion for the stars. Despite the challenges, she soared through the obstacles, fueled by sacrifices and dreams of her ancestors. She is a living proof that no matter where you come from, the sky is not the limit, but just the beginning. Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, STJ, and I'm welcoming Ranim Shaheen. I am so excited. I'm like speechless, like I'm stumbling on my own words. Seriously. Thank you so much for coming on. And since this is a storytelling platform, take us down the memory lane, going back to your parents or your grandparents, and shed some light on the story or the journey. How did you guys ending up in Houston, Texas?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here. So as you mentioned, my family did come as immigrants from the Middle East. My dad originally born and raised in Gaza. My mom born and raised in Ramallah, small city in Palestine. It's been exciting times in the space industry, but, in our culture, we don't really have that push of pursuing what you really want to pursue. Back in the days, it was more of you're either a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, in finance. There was no such thing as engineers, especially women in engineering. And so over the years, as my parents came here, they, came here with nothing. So seeing them build themselves, struggling through the obstacles of living in America, learning the language, and, trying to build themselves to give us a better future, really opened my eyes in terms of what I want to do, what I want to pursue. That doesn't go to say that engineering has always been on the top of my list of things I wanted to explore. Along the way, I've had challenges, right? So just like any human being, we come here, we, try to develop what we actually want to do. And sometimes it's hard. I've struggled throughout my career trying to figure out where I belong, where my placement is, who I was as a person. And, till this day, I'm still like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. And so it's like, I juggle multiple things, but I give a huge thanks to my parents because, I see the struggle that they endured. I, look up to them heavily because I want to make them proud in terms of giving them back everything that they struggled to give us and so much more. So that being said, I started my career very young working at NASA at the age of 19, working for actually one of their biggest prime contractors. And from there, I, got my degree in human resources. And because I realized I am such a people person, I love interacting. Because I was like, what more can I do? I don't want to do math. I don't want to do, all these things that I thought I didn't have the capability, especially with the stereotype of being an American Palestinian, right? Everyone's always like, oh, Palestinian. So they just start the stereotype, and the whole politics start to occur and things like that. So trying to really go to school and figure out what it is and where I belonged, was definitely a hurdle and a challenge in my books. Other people might see it differently, but I really wanted to do something that can impact the world. At first, I originally thought I wanted to go into dentistry. So I went and got my RDA started working at a dental office. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think I could see myself doing this for much longer. So, along the way, I realized, started doing research and tried to talk to my parents about like what it is I want to do. And of course, the mindset that the Middle Eastern parents have is like, we want you successful. Why don't you be a doctor? Why don't you be a lawyer or a pharmacist? And I'm like, well, I don't want to do any of that. And so I realized that being the people person that I am, I came across human resources. And so that's where I got my undergrad at the University of Houston and started, again, my career working in the space industry. Never thought I would be in the space industry at all, like never crossed my mind. But I always had a passion, for the curiosity of what belonged to society, but also the possibility of what other life is out there outside of just living here at Earth. And so I loved to start gaze and, the basic stuff that people usually do, look at telescopes and get into all the scientific stuff that aliens, do they really exist? And, it started to expand my curiosity on, more in the space industry. So as soon as I got my first job at working at NASA, I was like, okay, I could see myself doing this for a while. So I did that for a little bit. Every day my parents would be like, how do you like your job? How do you like your job? And I was like, oh, I love it. Like, I'm really excited. And I grew a passion for space, even bigger than what I thought I had. And so whenever I, hit some hardships in my life, I decided that, you know what? I think it's time to take a step back from the corporate world after 4 years and do something that I want to do. My parents, supported me 100%. So I opened up my own business. I opened up a staffing agency where I wanted to do something greater for other people and give them a once in a lifetime opportunity to get placement into the space industry, to give them opportunities that I never had growing up. And what better way than to give people the opportunity to work into something that is the next generation of, society, space exploration. That being said, I did that for a couple of years. And then, Axiom was one of the accounts that I had in my business. And so they were hiring and I took a leap of faith, sold my business, joined that, still doing human resources and recruiting. And then did that for a year or so and realized I want to focus more technical. And as you see, as I'm talking, like I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I like and don't like throughout my career. So I ended up going to get my master's in engineering with the focus in aeronautics. And I was still working full time, which was a struggle for me because trying to go to school and juggling a full-time job was definitely a challenge. But to be honest with you, it was definitely worth it because I don't think I would be where I am today if it wasn't for the support of my family and the capabilities I had within myself. And to be honest with you, I struggled to originally get into engineering world because I didn't think I was capable. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think, being a female in a male dominant role was such a thing. The diversity, it was a struggle because even in human resources, being a female in a male dominant role, you get treated a little bit differently. And until this day, I notice it. But of course, I still want to be that voice and that person to support other people and inspire them that, hey, just because, of your culture or your religion or, your skin color, it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, that there's so much more out there as long as you have that support and the potential within yourself to excel. So, I ended up switching over to our spacesuit program within the company, and I'm currently putting hands-on technical experience on designing the development of the next generation spacesuit that would be putting humans back to the moon. And, I'm loving every moment of it. But my main passion is honestly to inspire, again, the younger generation of space explorers to reach beyond their potential, especially everything that goes on in the Middle East, hardships, the wars and things like that. I want to be able to show the world that, hey, because things happen in your life and you see difficulties and struggles, that it's okay to fail. You are able to stand back up as long as you have it within your mindset and you see the positive and the good in the world, that anything is possible to achieve. So, I ended up getting selected to fly as one of the very first female Palestinians to space. And I'm hoping that this journey becomes something bigger and greater, and being able to inspire and open up space camp programs to underprivileged communities, different countries, to help start these kids at a younger age to start thinking about their future and the possibility of life outside of Earth.
Wow. Okay, I have like so many questions for you. I mean, this is just a summary of what you, and you're so young. It's amazing that life took you down this journey, right? But you speak much bigger than you are, which is amazing. So I agree with you. I mean, I am sick and tired of being stuck in the echo chamber of stereotype, right? I'm not going to bore you with my story. That's a whole different episode, but I totally relate being a female Arab Palestinian heritage. And, it's funny, even in the Middle East, I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, but we were considered as second class citizens, regardless of how much my dad has done investing into the country, adapting the culture. It doesn't really matter. And that's what I call the echo chamber stereotype against Palestinians, especially as a woman. It doesn't matter where you are. Unfortunately, the political agenda has wrapped us up, in that, echo chamber. It's really, really hard for us to redefine our capabilities, our potential. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of sacrifice. But if you don't mind, I just want to go back to your parents. Now, you're a first generation American, right? Okay. So, and your dad is from Gaza. God bless him. And then your mom is from Ramallah. When did they come to the United States? What year?
Good question. I wish I could tell you, but I mean, my dad came when he was young. I want to say like 16 years old. And same thing with my mom. She came when she was probably 17, maybe younger. But even though they came at a young age, it was still a struggle because, having to learn a new language, having to, understand how the society works of American mindset and being more open-minded than how, the Middle Eastern parents are when it's, strictly the concept of this is how we do it back home, and they try to bring that here, which becomes hard on us when we're living in a society that's very, very open-minded, So you learn and you develop and you try to understand and kind of cooperate on their perspective on why things are being done or why things are being said. But sometimes it's like, yeah, you say that, but do you realize where we are today? We live in America. Things aren't the way it is like how they were back home, So they came at a young age, but, I'm very thankful because I saw the struggles and I saw everything that they've been through and how hard they work to make something of themselves. And I just want to be that person, not just for my parents, but, for every Palestinian female, American Palestinian, anybody in the Middle East that struggles through the hardships that, though there's things happening behind the scenes, in terms of war and politics, but there's so much more out there for us as humans and where we come from and being able to hold true to our roots to be able to inspire that into the future generations of Palestinian people, or not just females in general, because I'm sure the male Palestinians or male Middle Easterns, they still get impacted too in certain ways of the stereotyping and, the politics. So it's a matter of making awareness that, just because we're coming from a place doesn't make us any different.
No, absolutely. Displacement by design or displacement by default. So when we talk a lot about this, on our episodes, is if you displace yourself by design, meaning that all is well, you have an opportunity, but you have a choice either to stay where you are or pursue a different world, to basically achieve your dreams. Displacement by default is when you are happy where you are, but if circumstances or a group of people tell you like, no, You got to go. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to stumble and take the best, the best choice that I have and hopefully, work it out, to have a similar future where I used to be or a better future where I'm going into the new world. But displacing yourself by default, you're really being forced to leave all your tribal support, everybody you love and everything that you know. And it's not easy. I came to this country in 1988. I was 19 years old. Right. And I had the choice as a non-Saudi or a second class citizen in Saudi Arabia. Regardless, I was born there and raised there. That's all I knew is Saudi Arabia. My option was to go back to Jordan, come to the United States. Well, I didn't relate to Jordan that much because I just visited Jordan. I related to the Saudi Arabia culture more than I related to the Jordanian culture because that's all I knew. So I decided to come to the United States. But if we had the equal rights in Saudi Arabia, probably I would have never left because to me, that was home. So that impacts our path and the way we lead our journey too. But I agree with you. It's very, very challenging leaving everything behind, coming to the new world, trying to simulate, but also at the same time, you're trying to maintain that attachment to your old world. You're born here, so you don't have as much connection. Your connection to the old world is through your parents or through your grandparents. Now, did your parents come alone or they came with their family?
They came with their families. Like my father came, with his siblings, and then my mother came with her siblings, and then her parents followed along the way. But even that, like, it's a struggle to see in my perspective, at least, all the things that they had to leave behind. And the fact that I can't even, let me take a step back real quick. So I went back to the Middle East, probably back in 2012, and when I went, I saw everything. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is beautiful. The country, the streets, the stores, everything you could possibly think of, and the people. It's like the small town that you always thought you can have. Well, at least for me, I've always wanted to live in a small town where everybody knew everybody and, hey, good morning kind of deal. But when I went back, it really opened my eyes in terms of where my family really came from and being able to get more on the culture, the diversity, how the mindsets were, how different families operated versus others. And it just was amazing. And then, coming back, it just shook me because I was there for almost 3 months. And I was like, wow, now I'm here back in America and it's nothing like how the Middle East was. But the sad part is that I can't just get up and take a flight to go visit or go see family because of everything that's going on. And it's pretty sad because I would want to, allow my future kids to be able to go see where, their grandparents came from and what define them as who they are and, their families and different generations and so forth. But it's so sad that I'm not able to do that, I can't, and it makes me even sadder that I can't even go back home. But with all the struggles and all the challenges that brought them here, they were able to make something of themselves to give us a better life here, right? Because honestly, I don't think if they remained there till today, I don't think we would be here, right? Having this conversation, me going to space, all the different things. So in a way, I'm very blessed that, my parents took that initiative to come to the States to make themselves better and, have something for them. But keeping in mind, my parents never finished school, right? So being the first gen of finishing an education and getting a master's and, doing all the things that most people don't get the opportunity to do, especially as a Palestinian female, it has been an incredible journey, even though there's obstacles and challenges. What is life if you don't face that? So I'm so thankful overall. But yeah, to that point, it's just like, I wish I can be able to see and define everything from the Middle East to be able to bring here. But, with all the challenges, it's very difficult with the things that go on.
I'm glad you went back because going back to the Middle East, number one, it shows us how much we sacrificed,
Right.
and what we sacrificed. And it puts our efforts back in the new world here in the United States even more worthwhile, because the price is very high. I'll tell you this, I know I came in 1988. Your parents came a lot earlier. The United States was a completely different country in the 80s even. It changed. Like, to me, it changed so much, it's almost unrecognizable. So going back, just touch base with that heritage, touch base with that culture. It's almost a reminder to say, don't forget where you came from. And my dad used to tell me, no matter how big you get, career-wise, how rich you are and how successful you are, don't ever forget where you come from. And that is embedded in us since childhood. Don't ever forget your roots. And that's how proud us as Palestinian, when it comes to our heritage. Remember, Palestinians is a very, very small group of people in the world. It's a very, very small area geographically, but the pride in them and the determination and the resilience and the strength. And I agree with you, things happen for a reason. And I always ask my guests, because I'm constantly questioning this concept. If the Nakba did not happen in 1948, would Palestinians as a nation, as a race, as people, be that driven to achieve what they have achieved so far in education, in career, in business, professionals, if the Nakba did not happen? And the answer is no. A lot of my guests saying that, including Dr. Meher Massis, he says, it's part of our nature. I think Nakba kind of, jetted that off, made it even more persistent of a feeling that, no, we got to stick to it regardless of the challenges and regardless of the obstacles that we face every single day, because we want our people to be proud of us, because our people that were left behind, they are suffering, and we give them a glimpse of hope that, okay, at least somebody else is successful. I know I'm suffering here, but at least, our blood and our roots are being successful somewhere else, and they're achieving above and beyond. But I agree with you, also the traditional gender role expectations. As an Arab, I think the male Arabs have more pressure than female Arabs. And I feel real bad seeing it through my brothers, being a man and stuff. We still practice that traditional gender role expectation, whether it is vocally exercised or just subconsciously. We feel, they feel they are still responsible for the family. You got to carry the name of the family. So that definitely, puts a lot of pressure on us, our mental, our health, our well-being. But also on the other side, it does fuel our drive, our drive to be successful. I call it mastering an unlimited mindset by eliminating limited belief. I have met all different kind of people through my practice. I own 3 practices in New England, and I met people from all over the world. But Palestinians or Arabs in general, as immigrants, they just exude that unlimited mindset that, there's nothing that's impossible, and they are so driven. And I think it comes from what they have left behind. They still constantly remind themselves that our people back home have much, much less opportunities and resources, and we need to be thankful for that and make something out of it.
Yeah, 100%. And again, going back to that, like, for me, I struggled a lot. I went through hardships in my life. I've suffered through depression. And, in our culture, when you tell somebody, oh, I'm depressed, it's like, why are you depressed? You have this, you have that. Like, and there's no such thing in the Arab community as depression. But honestly, when you really go through it, you start to realize that it's a real thing. But I think that also has driven me to continue, not just for myself and picking myself back up, but also to be able to strive to show people that just because I endured hardships in my life, that I'm still capable of doing everything and anything that a male person is able to do. That doesn't mean that just because I'm Palestinian, I'm going to neglect myself and sit in a hole and have the stereotypical things being said or, defining me as a person. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I am who I am. I am proud to be who I am. I'm proud of the things that my family did to get me to where I am today, even through hardships, their challenges, my challenges. I feel like all of the Middle East and where my parents came from and the diversity and the culture and the religion, the language, the traditions, all of that has defined who I am as a human being, which I plan to continue that for future generations. But keeping in mind, because I went through hardships, my parents also didn't know how to react. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to ask me how I'm feeling or, understand how the struggles I was battling within myself. And I mean, till this day, I fight battles within myself, but of course, that doesn't stop me from achieving what I want to achieve. I've self-published children poetry books. I've had my own business. I've been on multiple podcasts, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here to explain my story and hopefully motivate others that, hey, if she can do it, I can do it too, kind of thing. And it doesn't matter, again, your skin color or your religion or where you're coming from. You should be proud of who you are, where you come from, and carry that into the future generation.
I always teach my team, I have a team of almost 30 team members, that it's okay to fail. Failing is not a failure. It's not going to define you as a failure. Failing is very important. If you're not failing, something is wrong, because that's how you grow, right? Knowing is growing, and you won't be able to know how to do certain things if you don't stumble and fall and fail. And that's what helps you gain the knowledge and the experience that's going to help you really reach to the destination, whatever you're trying to reach to. And I agree with you 100%. It's okay to go through depression. It's okay to I have anxiety. Every time I'm practicing for 27 years, certain procedures in dentistry makes me really anxious, like dropping an implant. It's like, what if this happened? But I am very, very analytical. I'm very technique sensitive. I'm task oriented. So I want to make sure that I'm in control in order to give the patient the best experience they're looking for. And that makes me anxious. It's more like excited anxious. There's so many different types of anxiety. But, doing a podcast, I never done public speaking. And I just, been prepping for this for about 2 years. And I went back and forth. No, I'm not good enough. No, it's a bad idea. I'm not going to make it. Who cares? Nobody's listening, all this stuff. You just self-doubt. And I agree with you, but you have to go through the hardship. You have to feel the pain to heal the pain. And that's what I teach my team, the ones that struggling to, find themselves, or they're struggling to learn a certain task or be, be able to take care of the responsibilities that we bestowed on them. And again, there are social challenges, external, and there are internal challenges too within our family, and that translate into the way we look at ourselves and the way we look at, and the way that how we measure our confidence, and our ability to reassure yourself. It's almost like self-soothing, like a toddler. They tell you, leave the toddler if they cry through the night, let them self-soothe. But you learn that by going through these experiences through life. How are you going to learn? I don't care how many books you read. I don't care how many videos or YouTube videos that you watch. You have to experience it in order for you to gain the skill and the ability to help yourself, because God bless your family and your parents. But at some point, our family and our ancestors are not going to be around us, right? Nothing lasts forever. We need to, equip ourselves with as many tools and as many techniques as possible in order for us to keep going and keep making our family and heritage proud and continue that legacy that your parents came in for. Like I said, sacrifice everything that they know and everybody that they love in order to give you a better future. But that's why we we created Discovering Palestinian Intellect in order to show the world that we are more than tent living refugees. We can accomplish. We do have a brain and a mind and curiosity about the world, and we do have potential, and we be able to achieve, like I said, even more than the natives that have been here for hundreds and hundreds of years. But let's tap into education. So did your parents pursue education, or they were just working? Okay. Yeah. Working community. Okay. Yeah, and so your mom is
Yeah. So my parents, when they came here, my mom finished high school. My dad dropped out, came to the States. So they worked. That's all they did. That's all they knew what to do, is to work and try to be successful and try to give us a better life. And so for me, my education came from what stemmed what I wanted to do. And going back to that, I think I mentioned that in the beginning, was I never knew space and anything beyond that. It's not until I got into the career where I was like, okay, this is interesting. Now my curiosity, my mind is coming out. And excuse me, to that, I wanted to just take a step real quick, talking about failure, and tying into the education. So when I started my career into engineering and doing the design work and struggling, not just because I was one of the very, very few females on the team, but the fact that I was so scared at the beginning because I didn't think I was as smart and capable as all the other males on my team to continue to do this job. I struggled. And when I tell you so much, every day I would go home and like, okay, am I doing a good job? And I would self-sabotage myself. Till this day, I still self-sabotage. But if there's one thing I learned from my colleagues and, my friends, is self-sabotaging is not going to make you better. It's just going to break you. And another thing I learned, to your point of failure, one of my colleagues that I still hold true to my heart today is, if you're not failing, you're not doing your job right. And to me, that hit home, because I'm like, okay, so if I fail, because I never knew, like, a failure, if I failed, I would get sad. I would get, disappointed in myself. Like, why am I failing? Why is nothing going right? But constantly hearing, if you fail, you're not doing your job right, made me realize that it's okay to fail, because that's what makes you successful. It's all about the learning experience and what you take from that makes you better at what you do, but also you bring that into society to help inspire other people that it's okay to fail as well. And so for me, that whole education and going into a male dominant field, like, I sit there at my desk sometime and I'm like, wow, I wish there was more Palestinian women in any organization. I wish there was more people I can be able to speak my language to while I'm at work. And it's not because people don't hire us or because we're not capable. It's because sometimes I believe that we have that mindset that I can't do this because that's a man's job, or I can't do this because I'm not smart enough. And I'm the perfect image of that, because I self-sabotaged myself for so long that it took me 4 years after I got my undergrad to go back and realize that I'm just as capable and I'm just as smart. And just because I'm Palestinian, that doesn't define my capabilities and my skill sets. And so to that, I say, my biggest quote that I follow is, once I work hard in silence, I let success be my noise. And that doesn't go to say I want to publicize all my information and seek validation from the world just to prove, me as a Palestinian, I'm being successful. No, it's about being successful within myself, so that way I can relate to that into other and implement that into others, especially into the younger generation, that I am your voice. I am here to inspire you in terms of going into an education, that it's okay if it's a man's job. We're just as capable,
No, the other thing is, as a child of diaspora, which is yourself, quitting is not an option. Saying no is not an option. Failure is not an option. And as you know, with such an ancient, cultural mindset, we always have that, criticizing ourselves analyzing because we are, as immigrants, we're very paranoid, so when we are paranoid, is the new world and new society is going to accept us, we have to overperform, we have to overcompensate, almost like we can tap into the approval addiction. We need to be approved, we don't want to be denied any of the resources. So option is not, quitting is not an option. Failure is not an option. Saying no to opportunity is not an option. Staying home is not an option. We have to keep going. But I agree with you. If you do not accept failure, then you're not trying. Mm-hmm. Because, as you're a scientist and I am in science too. The success of science by trial and error. Right? You have to have data. And in order for you to produce data, you have to try the experiment over and over and over again. And as you're repeating that experimental path, you just changing your ways until you bingo, I hit it just right. This is exactly what I'm looking for. But as a child of diaspora, your parents have embedded into your psyche that failure is not an option. But what that does to us as young immigrants in the United States, living in the United States, already being assimilated, especially you as a new generation, you always have that process of judgment. You're judging yourself, and then you have the guilt with it too, because I feel so bad if I fail. What my parents are going to say, what my family's going to say. I want to make my family proud. And it's not only Arab or Palestinian immigrant. All immigrants that I interviewed exactly have the same mindset that I cannot fail because I want to make my family proud. Not only the family here, I want my whole country to be proud of me, because guess what? There are an extended family back there that are waiting for my success because that's all they have. They just want a moment to celebrate us because of their circumstances. They are in dire need to be happy, to celebrate something that is positive because of their circumstances. So there's a heavy, heavy feeling of guilt. And if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we betrayed our family. The biggest example is when we reassess our belief system. My parents' belief system that I carried with me from Saudi Arabia here in 1988, when I was 19 years old. When I got in my 40s, I realized that belief system is not serving me anymore. So I had to reassess that belief system in order for me to continue as a mature career, female business owner, in order for me to grow. But it took me a long time to sit down and figure that out because of the feeling of guilt. I felt like, how can I reassess my heritage belief system without feeling guilty? I'm betraying them. This is who I am. I'm pulling my roots away. I'm denying my parents. But of course, I hired a life coach and made me understand that, no, it's okay. This is your time now. Your parents lived their life and they bestowed on you their belief system, but you need to create your own belief system, not to deny your heritage, but create your own belief system in order to serve you better so you can keep growing and achieving what you are trying to achieve. And coming to that realization, but it was amazing. But the process of guilt and feeling that I'm betraying my family and my family going to disown me if I act or have a different attitude because I have a new belief system that belongs to me, that's designed specifically to serve my life now, not my life then. And you almost like you tap into the identity crisis. So it's like, okay, who am I? I used to be so-and-so's daughter. Right? I'm the daughter of Sheikh and Nabilsi. But if my dad's values are changed, then am I still his daughter? It's bizarre. It's a fascinating mindset process that I had to go through in order to be happy. Before, I wasn't happy as much as I am happy now, but I felt like, okay, you don't have to be happy. I'm honoring my heritage. It's okay. That's a sacrifice that I have to make. I'm going to sacrifice my happiness to keep my heritage or my family belief system intact. And then you realize, but that's not going to serve you very well. And I hope that makes sense.
It does, 100%.
Yeah. Did you go through the process like that, or?
Honestly, a little bit. And I want to explain that in terms of, our beliefs and where we come from. Because of the fact that, through my hardships, I felt like I was a disappointment. I felt like, because this tragic thing happened in my life, that defined who I was. And for so long, I kept blaming that as the reason why I want to keep striving and I want to keep pushing, because I feel like I disappointed my parents and I want to keep pushing to make them proud and this and that. And I was lost. I was trying to figure out, like you said, who am I? Where does that define who I am? Does my belief and the tragic things that I went through define, my culture, my religion? What is the community going to say about me and all these things? And, because I wanted to protect the name of the family, it was hard for me to really express, okay, well, I have to believe in this, or I have to make sure I stay in something because that's what our traditions and our culture entitled it to be. But at the end of the day, I sat a lot alone to realize, I can't allow that to define me and how my family roots came from. That doesn't define my success. It doesn't define me being a female. It doesn't define, and I talked with so many colleagues in terms of the things I was going to, because they started to realize that when I have conversations, that's all I talked about. That's all I brought up, is the fact that, the hardships or the sadness or this and that about, what I went through in our culture and our religion, and this isn't allowed and you can't do that. And it made me feel like I genuinely failed, and I didn't feel like I had any potential to succeed. I didn't think, I would be where I am today. But in all reality, the alone time that I've had to myself and the loneliness that I felt, all of those came with the purpose. And I realized that today that, that is my purpose. I needed to go through that. I needed to define, who I was through my culture and my religion and, my ethnicity to make me who I am and make me stronger as a person and as a female. But it also shaped me to want to implement that into the younger generation in terms of, you don't have to keep walking in the path to feel like a disappointment. You can continue doing what it is that you want to do and be successful within yourself, not using your past or your trauma or your, anything that you went through, the politics, the wars, to define that to your future of education. And that was a battle. And it took me a while to really realize, like, just because I went through stuff in life, just like everybody else, it doesn't change your capabilities or your skill sets. And I always thought that I'm a failure. I'm never going to succeed. That's it. My life is over. We're done. But it really made me become stronger. And I'm very thankful for everything I went through in my life, because honestly, I don't think I would have went back to school for a master's. I don't think I would be currently selected as an astronaut candidate if I didn't push myself to get back up and, work with my family and get the support that I needed to be able to drive myself to be the next and one of the very first female Palestinians to venture into space.
That is amazing. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, I was stumbling in my words because I'm just so excited. I want to talk to you. Like, I have so many questions, but it's fascinating. I am a first generation immigrant. You are a first generation American, but we still went through the process of that identity crisis, right? And for the longest time, like I said, I've been in this country about 38 years, and not until I hit my 40s, I had to go through the identity crisis, because after I achieved everything I'm supposed to achieve and the dust is settling, and I said, okay, I've been busy all this time since I was 19 years old, building a future, building a life on the belief system that my parents bestowed on me. And I was struggling constantly, like, who am I? Am I this or am I that? I'm not really American. I'm Palestinian heritage, Dembi Falastini, but at the same time, I am very American, and that's why I came to the United States, because I vacationed in the United States since I was 7 years old. So the U.S. culture been part of my blueprint since I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talked to my life coach, she said, why are you putting yourself through this? Why are you being so hard on yourself? Why do you have to be one or the other? Why can't you be both? And it just the epiphany, you know what I'm saying? And I realized that, yeah, I do have the advantage. I am in the advantage position. I have a multicultural competency, multicultural adaptability, and I can relate to more than one culture. I can relate to more than one race, and I need to share that with the world. And one of the reasons that I started this podcast, because I want to gift this to the world and hopefully transfer that power to you guys in order to continue doing this for generations on. But also at the same time, rejection is redirection, right? We have been rejected. My parents been rejected from Jordan, being my dad Palestinian, into Saudi Arabia, been rejected in Saudi Arabia, being from Saudi. He didn't want to go back to Jordan, coming to the United States, and had to tell your kids, it's like, hey, we're moving again. You know what I'm saying? This is not home. You have to change your home again. So rejection is redirection. And I agree with you. It really depends on what you get out of it as far as experience and lessons and how you're going to empower yourself with that experience, for sure.
Right.
But going back to, where you are at right now, can you think of one specific event or one specific person that really ignited and just opened your eyes? This is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, honestly, I have a few people. One being myself, being my own self-motivator, right? If it wasn't for me getting and having that time to myself to really understand and identify who I am as a person and what I want to do, I don't think I would have accomplished what I have. And definitely my parents have a huge play in it, right? Every time I came up to them, it's like, hey, I want to do this. And they're like, well, okay. It's like every time it's something new. Like just the other day I was talking to them and I was like, I want to start this business. What do y'all think? And my dad was like, go for it. And I'm like, I'm just always trying to find opportunities to grow as a person, but also be successful, not just for my parents, but to prove that, hey, you can go through hard times, but and still be capable to achieve things. My goal is to retire in the next 10 years. Is that going to be possible? But that's my drive. That's my goal, right? But I want to touch base real quick, if that's okay, about what you were talking about, that whole identity. So, a few weeks ago, I was actually sitting with some friends and we came across the conversation of how do you identify yourself to society? When somebody asks you, where are you from? What do you say? Do you say, oh, I'm from Houston? Or do you say, I'm American? Or how do you identify yourself as a person? And I literally sat there and I was like, honestly, when people ask me, where are you from? I always say I'm Palestinian, but I've been born and raised in Houston. I always throw the fact that I'm Palestinian first. And then one of my best friends was like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, but you were born and raised American, so you don't identify as American? I'm like, well, technically I know I'm American, but I always follow my roots, And I'm like, do you say, you're Hispanic, or do you say you're American? Or do you say, you're this and you're that? But like, I always define my ethnicity first and backing up that I'm American because I want to carry on, my culture. And I'm so proud to be Palestinian. And I'm so proud that my family came here and, the roots that I come from. So it's like, it was a whole debate, a 2-hour debate in my living room talking about how do you identify yourself to the world? And so everybody has their preference, He will clearly say, I'm American. When he's not, his skin color is totally different, but because he preferences where he was born and raised, I'm like, so you're telling me that defines who you are, is where you were born and raised? You don't allow that where your parents come from to define you? And so it was like a whole back and forth, and it's just like, it depends on if you're proud or not proud. It's who you really are and who you want to be. And for me, I'm going to be where, I was raised and where my family came from. So I always pitch out, oh, I'm Palestinian, but I was born and raised in America.
No, I agree 100%. I think part of it is culture. Part of it is, I don't know how to describe it. Palestinians have... It is. I mean, like I said, I never been to Palestine, and I never, I visited Jordan just on vacations. So I don't, my dad was born in Jordan. My mom is from Asalt, the tribes of Jordan. But originally, even Beit al-Azab, they are from Egypt and Palestine. Everything starts in Palestine and Egypt. I believe that 100%. All the origin, I think, of the Levantine comes from there. But my dad being Nablisi, originally we're Syrian, and then we went into Nablus. From Nablus, we went to Jordan. But it's still Palestinian. Like the blood, it just thicker, and they write blood is thicker than water. So for example, when I went to Egypt for the first time last November, because my husband is Egyptian, and met everybody, and people will, like, when I speak Arabic, I have the accent. So the Egyptian will ask me where you're from. It's like, I'm from Palestine originally. It's like, oh my God, they like giving me free stuff. And I was like, you don't have to do that. It just, I'm proud of it, but where you see it over there, I wish we have it here. But I agree with you. There's no such thing as American. The United States is built on immigration and tribe. So when you say I'm American, American is more a citizenship than an identity. United States, being an American, is what unite us as a working force, I call it, in the United States. But as far as heritage, everybody is different. We come from all different walks, of life and all different parts of the world. And people need to be proud of that. But it doesn't really matter, how old I am or where I live. Probably I'm going to end up dying here in the United States, but still, till the last day, I'm going to say I'm a demi Palestini, regardless of that. It doesn't really matter, because our habits and our natural tendencies. It's about that, Palestinian spirit, which is absolutely beautiful. Our culture is beautiful. Our custom is beautiful. Our music is beautiful. Our people are beautiful. I mean, they just, if you look at the history of Palestine, these people are just nomads. They wanted to live and farm and sing and dance. That's all they wanted. But unfortunately, somebody had a different narrative, different agenda, and made us just submit to that. But as you said, there's always I always call it, like, I always look at the half glasses full, and the reason why I'm glad your parents, unfortunately, they got displaced, but I'm glad they got displaced so we can sit down right now in front of a camera on social media and talk about it and inspire other people. So since we are coming to the end of our hour, believe it or not, I can talk to you for hours. What would you say to a young Palestinian female that is thinking about displacing herself, whether she is coming from Dubai or Kuwait or England, coming to the United States, and interested in the cosmos? What is it that you would advise her to do?
Yeah, of course. For me, honestly, my advice would be proud of who you are and where you come from. That the sky is not the limit, and there's so much more beyond that. So stay positive, keep grinding, keep striving, because before you know it, if I can reach the stars, so can you.
Absolutely. That is so beautiful. And it's okay to suffer through mental health too. I know our culture does not identify my mom. Every time I said, my mom, I'm anxious about exams. She's like, go have a snack, go play outside, go pray, say, go have a nap, you'll be fine. Because it's almost like a sign of weakness. Like, if you have faith in yourself and faith in the divine, you should draw that strength from your family or from the divine. So for us to say, I'm going to go talk to a therapist, they're like, oh my God, it's a big taboo. It's like, why? We're not good enough? Or God is not good enough to give you the strength? Like, we're here for you every single day. Why would you go pay for somebody, a stranger, to dump all your emotions and your feelings, and they're just going to take your money? My mom used to say, they're going to just take your money and lie to you. And it's like, okay, you just want a listening ear. I'm here for you. But my argument is, if I dump all my emotions in your lap, you're going to criticize me, and I'm going to end up feeling worse than when I started. So I'm not going to go there. But my mom was, like I said, an educator. She was a math and science teacher for high school, in Saudi. And she had a lot of experience. She's very, very smart. She's like the math and science brain. And my dad was the more like creative writing and an artist in our family. But yeah, and I just want to tell the audience that if you like this content or you would like us to continue discussing these, we'll be very, very happy to bring Ranim Shaheen on in order for us to I would love to tap into mental health and love to tap into the whole psychology of being an Arab, American in the United States. So as a reminder, these episodes are uploaded every single Wednesday on both platforms, the Apple and the Spotify podcast platforms. And also these episodes are available for you to watch as a video on our YouTube channel, the Greenwood Dental Partners. So again, if you like this content, please share and like and hit the notification button. That way you won't miss any episodes. And as a reminder, we are more than tent living refugees. We are Palestinian intellect. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope to see you next time. This is Slava the Jordanian.